continues to work. Om iti etadaksharam idagum sarvam tasya upavyakhyanam bhutam bhavad bhavishyaditi sarvam omkara eva yaccha anyatrikalatītam tadapi omkara eva sarvam hi etad brahma ayamatma brahma soyamat जागरितस्थानो बहिष्प्रज्ञः सप्तांगः एकोनविंशतिमुखः स्थूलभुग्वैश्वानरः प्रथमः पादः. So that is where we came up to. Since we have these long gaps, we'll have a little bit of a revision and then come to today's class. So sarvam hi etad brahma ayamatma brahma saha ayamatma chatushpat. Earlier we saw the first mantra say Om iti etad aksharam idam sarvam. So we saw those equations. Om equal sarvam. Sarvam in the second mantra sarvam etad brahma. So sarvam is brahma. Therefore Om equal to Brahma. Right? So Om is equal to both Saguna and Nirguna Brahman. Now in the third mantra it is said, in this mantra itself, second Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma. That means Atma is also Brahma. Therefore Atma is equal to Om is equal to Brahma is equal to Sarvam. Right? This much we saw. Under Ayam Atma, Brahma, we saw that Atma, the self, is the effortless, immediate, independent, changeless presence. Right? Changeless conscious presence that shines in the Antakarana as the I am thought. None of us can deny it. So, we just use the Atma Anatma rule. What is the rule? Whatever I experience, whatever I know, I am not that. So body, prana, feelings, thoughts, sensations, breath, memories, ignorance, ego, all these are known, all these are experienced. Because they are known and experienced, we negate them and we say they are anatma for the time being. So that we can separate, right? We want to separate and find out what is it that is always there, always here, unchanging. So we separate the changing from the changeless. So whatever is changing is whatever I experience, whatever I know. So then what are we left with after we have negated all of this? We are left with only this effortless, immediate, conscious presence, which is self-evident. It is self-revealing. Okay? It is shining here as I am. This, it's important, to see this even as it is being said. This conscious presence that I am is always there, always present, invariably present in and through every variable experience. All experiences are variable, they come to go. So that which is present in and through every experience of waking, dream and deep sleep. And how is it present? Changelessly present. So this ever present, immediate conscious presence, which is what is called here as Ayam Atma, this self, is what? Is Brahma. It is So Brahma we thought was something remote. No, no, no. What is it? I am Atma, that which is most immediate. And it is that which is most immediate, which is the self, is Brahma, is limitless. Limitless meaning what? Not limited by time, not limited in space, not limited by being any one object. Iti. In another word for it, for Brahma is God, Ish. So this Nirguna Brahman, Nirguna, because not limited by any object, has no qualities, is not any particular one object, free of all change. This Nirguna Brahma, this Nirguna, timeless, indestructible, all-pervading, conscious presence is what appears as Saguna Brahma, which manifests, appears to manifest itself as all this that is here, all this that can be experienced, that can be known, iti. So as Nirguna Brahman, what Upanishad is saying is that you are the very essence. As Saguna Brahma, this is your Ishta Devata, ever present, ever residing in your heart, ever accessible to you, if only you choose to access. Okay? As Saguna Brahma is available as the universe with which we transact. So we saw that Swami Viditatmananji points out that knowing oneself is the result of a life which is committed to self-growth. And Swamiji gave a sutra for that growth, saying that let there be a shift in priorities. Right? Because what is the shift in priorities? Usually we give importance to the world that we transact with, to all the Nama Rupa. That is what we give importance to. It seems so real to us. Iti. So a shift in priorities, seek to identify with that which is the changeless essence of this universe and let go of identifying with the changing Nama Rupa. So the first step in doing that is to recognize Ishvara as one Maha order that pervades everything. This order, the laws of cause and effect, pervades the entire universe. The earth goes round the sun day after day, year after year. The seasons change, new moon, full moon. There is order everywhere. So the first step is to align with the order as an individual. Then we grow. We perform our actions as a contributor, and so we have the attitude of contribution, of offering, Ishwararpana Buddhi. And we see that divine order behind the results of our actions, and therefore we accept it gracefully. You know, the Delhi election results, we accept that the Muslims voted generously and we Hindus did not take to the streets to vote. So we accept our mistakes and we learn from them and we grow. Grow till we are ready to understand I am Atma, Brahma. So what is being said? I am Atma, Brahma means that complete satisfaction, that Purnata. Brahma is Purna. That Purnata is where my very self. Because it's a satisfaction that does not go. It is effortless. It is accompanied by freedom. That's how Purnata is. Effortless, immediate, free of all body-mind limitation. Right? So Upanishad is pointing out that the Purnata that you're seeking is not out there. It is I am Atma, your own self. Saha I am Atma Chatushpat. Saha, that. What is that? That Brahman, which is this Atma. That Brahman, which is this Atma, has got 4 quarters. So now Upanishad begins a prakriya, a particular methodology to unfold and the truth of the Atma. It begins this particular methodology. If you're coming in late, please afterwards do listen in, okay? The beginning portion has got summary part of it. Atma is indivisibly one. So how can it have 4 quarters? So we need to understand this is a methodology that is being used. So there's just an imagery over here used to communicate the nature of Atma based on our daily experiences of waking, dream and sleep. And the invariable in the 3 states. Chatushpat, waking, dream, deep sleep, and the invariable in and through all of them. Iti. So that invariable which is in and through all of them is called as Turiya. So waking, dream, deep sleep, they are all experiences that we have. Apply the rule that I talked about earlier. Whatever I experience, whatever I know, I'm not that. Waking state, let's look at the waking state. Waking state consists of a triputi. 3-fold factors are there in the waking state. There is the waker, the waking experience, and the waking world. Waker is who? The consciousness identified with the body-mind. So this entire triputi, the waker, the waking experience, the waking world, okay, the one who considers him the consciousness which is identified with the body mind is the waker. And the waker has a waking experience. For some reason the color changed, after it fell. The waker has a waking experience and there is a waking world. So this entire triputi is illumined, it is blessed, it is enlivened in the effortless, immediate, conscious presence that is Atma, right? That is the self. We already saw that. So this Atma, in whose presence this triputi is illumined, is the one who is called as Turiya the 4th. And this entire triputi being dependent upon Atma, without the presence of this immediate, effortless presence of consciousness, this triputi cannot be known. And therefore, being dependent on that, this triputi, the entire waking triputi, is considered as mithya, that which is a dependent reality. Okay. If the triputi is mithya, then what is the satyam here? That immediate presence of consciousness is satyam. Okay. So mithya also means it is an appearance, a projection. Because what is the nature of consciousness? Consciousness is changeless. In its changeless presence, this appearance of waker, waking, the waking world is taking place. It comes, it goes, it comes, something is born, it stays for a while, it goes. Right? We've seen what mithya is before. So too the dream state also, with its triputi of the dreamer, the dream experience, the dream world, is also mithya. It is also dependent on the invariable presence of consciousness. See, you cannot say mithya unless there is satyam. Mithya means dependent reality, so what it is dependent upon becomes the satyam. And in the ever presence of consciousness, the dream experience takes place, as even does the absence of every experience in deep sleep. You are there, because of which When you get up, you are able to say, I slept very well, I did not know anything, iti. So Swamiji takes the popular example of one actor playing three different roles. One actor is the beggar, the king, the minister, right? The roles, all of them depend upon the actor. If the actor is not there, there is no role. So the roles are totally dependent and therefore they are mithya. They can't stand on their own. They have no independent existence. Whereas the actor is Satyam. In the same way, Atma or Turiya is Satyam and the three states are Mithya. Consciousness is not a state. Consciousness is that which is ever present. What has got states? Mind has got states. Consciousness as though gets a state because of association with the mind. Right? The mind has waking, dream, deep sleep. Iti. Consciousness appears to be associated with that and therefore appears to have states. So this is just aside. It is good to take time off. I keep telling you all this. Take time off to just be an observer. We need to do that. To assimilate this, what Vedanta is saying. Be just an observer. Observe. Take on the role of an observer. That's also a role. As an observer, you merely observe. You don't react, you don't act. You're just observing. The act of observing. Right? And if you do this, you will find out how much of identification there is. How much of identification will be there even for the wise man. But how much of it we take it to be real. So observe. Sensations, breath, feelings, thoughts, memories, ignorance, ego. Observe all this. Okay? What happens? Often, in fact always, we think we are the thought. I am my feelings. It's as though I and my feelings got rolled and became into one. You know? I am my feelings. A big adhyasa going on. When we take up the topic of adhyasa, we will see Swarupa adhyasa and Samsarga adhyasa. So, I am the feeling. This is one. The other is I am my feelings. My feelings and I. You know, I'm connected. These are my feelings. Iti. So, there is big time identification over here. I am my feelings. So, I think I am my thoughts. Am I? I should ask myself, am I this thought? Or am I the effortless, immediate, changeless, self-revealing, self-evident, conscious presence, knowing presence, in whose presence this thought arises, stays and goes away. Iti. So, we need to take on this role of a observer. It will reveal lot of things to us of what Vedanta wants to tell us. Iti. Now let's look at the third mantra. Okay? Jagarita sthanaha bahish prajnaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukhaha sthulabhug vaishwanaraha prathamah padaha. In the book itself we can see Jagarita sthanaha. Actually I am looking at the last, in the last page where it is there. Jagarita sthanaha, whose sphere of activity is the waking state. The consciousness whose sphere of activity is the waking state. Bahish prajnaha, one who is conscious of the external world. Saptangaha, having 7 limbs. Ekona vimshati mukhaha, having 19 mouths. Sthulabhug, experiencer of gross objects. Vaishwanaraha, the waker. This is the Prathama Padaha, the first quarter. So the first quarter is Vaishwanaraha, whose sphere of activity is the waking state, who is conscious of the external world, who has 7 limbs, who has 19 mouths, and who experiences the gross objects. So, here we are seeing the Upanishad describes the consciousness associated with the waking state, calling it as Jagarita Sthanaha. Sthana means the field of experience or activity. Jagarita Sthanaha means the one whose field of activity is the waking state. And what is the waking state? It is defined as that in which there is perception or experience of objects using our sense organs. Right? So in the waking state, Atma or consciousness is identified with the physical body, it is identified with the senses, and therefore it experiences the objects of the world. So, in the waking state, we are interacting with the world, right? In the waking state, we are always interacting with the world. Even as I am interacting, with this Facebook Live, and I know that there is one person here, eh? So we are interacting with the world, but usually what is the nature of our interaction? We are always seeking gratification. We are seeking satisfaction from the world. Why do we do this? Because there is a sense of apurnata. Why is the sense of apurnata there? Because there is identification with the body-mind sense complex. The body-mind sense complex is limited, and that identification makes us think that we are limited, and therefore there is a sense of apurnata. And why is this there? Why is this kind of identification there? Because of ignorance. Avidya kritaha iti. Okay. Then we see that in the waking state, consciousness appears to be extrovert. Bahish prajnaha, it is said in the mantra. Shankaracharya says, Swatma Vyatirikta Vishaye. The prajna, the consciousness is turned towards, other than itself. Okay, whose field of activity is other than itself. Swatma Vyatirikta, other than itself. Okay. So, Bahihi Vishaya Prajna Yasya Saha Bahish Prajnaha. The one whose consciousness is externally directed towards outside objects. Okay. So now when we use the word outside, it is only with reference to the body, because consciousness is all pervading. So there cannot be any, we cannot say outside and inside. We can't say consciousness is all pervading. So outside is only from standpoint of the body. We can say from standpoint of the mind, who is identifying with the body. Iti. So it is seemingly outward. So when we say consciousness is bahish prajnaha, it is seemingly outward from the standpoint of this body. So Shankaracharya says, Bahir Vishaya Iva Prajna, as though turned outwards. Even though consciousness is not really outwards, it appears outward. How does it appear outward? Avidya krita. Because of ignorance, we talk of an external world. Now from the Jnani's angle, there is no external world. Why? Because for the Jnani, the entire universe is within himself. It's in that consciousness. He knows that he is that consciousness. Right? That limitless consciousness. In that limitless consciousness, this appearance of the universe is taking place, whether it is waking or dream, or it is appearing. So the Jnani knows that in the consciousness that I am, this whole universe is there. Iti Nija Antargata, the Jnani knows. So in keeping with the ignorant person's misconception, the Upanishad uses the word Bahish Prajnaha. Swami Viditatmananji in page 99, the third paragraph says, it's actually the mind that is extrovert. But inasmuch as consciousness is identified with the mind, it looks as though consciousness is extrovert. There is no extrovert or introvert in consciousness, but because of identification with the mind, it seems as though my consciousness is out there. It is extrovert. So we use the word my consciousness. What do we mean my consciousness? Because of identification with the body, with reference to the body, I say my consciousness, right? Okay, so now let's look at page 99 and let's read a little bit from there. Yeah, very beautiful, Page 99, the very beautiful portion. Okay. Although we use the word consciousness, I am reading now from page 99. Consciousness is neither external nor internal. Although we use the word consciousness, there is nothing external or internal in consciousness as such. With reference to an object like pot, we can say the space within the pot and the space outside the pot. But from the standpoint of space, there is no external or internal. Suppose that out of ignorance, space somehow has the notion that I am confined to the pot. I am only as big as the pot. Then the space existing outside the pot would be called as external space, and the space existing within the pot will be called internal space. If you have any questions, you can just type it out and I will be able to see it and I will try to answer it. But in reality, from the standpoint of space, there is no external and no internal. So external and internal are imagined based on the boundary of the pot. Like that, we have these ideas of external and internal based on the boundary of the body. But just as there is no external or internal from the standpoint of space, there is no external or internal from the standpoint of consciousness. The mind imagines external and internal because the mind thinks that the body is the self. It therefore thinks that whatever is outside the body is external and whatever is within the body is internal. So, it is the mind that goes out. The consciousness does not go out. Where will consciousness go? It is all pervading, So, consciousness does not have anywhere to go. Atma has nowhere to go. Don't think that Atma, the self, departs this body and goes to another body. Why? Because Atma is Sat, ever present, existence principle, which is of the nature of consciousness, Chit, which is limitless, which is all pervading and indestructible, Iti. It is consciousness, it is everywhere. So there is no movement for Atma. Now a difficult concept. When a pot moves in space, the pot space does not move. Why? Because space is all pervading, Where is the space going to move? Movement is from a place, like for example, my hand is here. It's not here. So my hand can move from here to here, right? You can move from one place where you are to a place where you are not. When something is all pervading, where is the movement going to be there? Iti. So let's look at this. When a pot moves in space, the pot space does not move. But to us, it looks as though the pot space is moving because our attention is on the walls of the pot. So also, when the subtle body departs and travels from one embodiment to another, we think that Atma also is traveling. Atma, consciousness, does not have any movement. Consciousness has no going, no change, no modification, nothing external, nothing internal. This one line itself, one should underline and spend time thinking about it, understanding the all-pervading nature of consciousness, which is oneself. So Swamiji continues, however, we superimpose the modifications taking place in the mind upon consciousness. This is what we call as adhyasa. We superimpose the modifications taking place in the mind upon consciousness, and we say external consciousness. What is externally focused is the mind. But because consciousness is identified with the mind, we say external consciousness with reference to external objects. Therefore, we say the waker's consciousness is external, meaning he is experiencing the external objects. Okay. So the next word is sthula bhuk. Bhuk means enjoyer or experiencer. The bhokta. Sthula means that which is gross. Sthulan vishayan bhunkte iti sthula bhuk. The one who experiences bhunkte sthulan vishayan, the gross objects, is called as the experiencer or enjoyer, sthula bhuk, of the gross objects. Gross objects means the tangible objects which we perceive through our sense organs, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, iti. So in the waking state, I am the experiencer of gross objects. So we'll look at what Swamiji has to say, which is on page 100. Very beautiful it is, this portion. We could even skip that and you could read it. Okay. Yeah, in fact, you can read that, okay? Because it's not much over there. You can read it on your own. What we will read in detail will be the next one. The next adjective is a description of the waker is saptangaha, the one who has 7 limbs. Saptangaha. This refers to the cosmic person Virat Ishvara. This is very, very, very interesting and important. So on page 102, we will read what Swamiji has to say. The next adjective in the description of the waker is Saptangaha, the one who has 7 limbs. The waker has 7 limbs. What are these 7 limbs? The Vedas in different places provides various descriptions of the 7 limbs of the cosmic person. Now we are looking at a cosmic person. Earlier we were looking at the individual. So we will see what all Swamiji has to say. It's very beautiful. In the Purusha Suktam, we find this description of the cosmic person. Chandrama manaso jataha. The moon was born of the cosmic person's mind. Chaksho suryo ajayataha. From the eyes, the sun was born. Okay, from the cosmic person's eyes, the sun was born. Mukhad indras chagnischa. From the mouth, Indra and Agni were born. Nabhya asid antariksham. From the middle of the body of this cosmic person, this intermediate world was born. Shishno dyau samavartata. From the head, the heavens were born, the cosmic person. Pad, Padbhyam Bhumihi. From the feet, the earth was born. And Dishaha Shrotrat. The four directions were born from the ears. So this whole universe is looked upon as one cosmic person. So just as you and I are persons, so is this cosmic person. We have limbs and the cosmic person also has limbs. This is just imagery, but the image suggests that just as an individual being, in an individual being, there are many limbs, okay? So too, for the cosmic being, the limbs of the cosmos are many, but the self is one. As an individual, we have got many different limbs, hands, legs, right? So many different parts are there. But there is one individual entity, one self pervades all the limbs. So too for the cosmos, one self, one consciousness pervades all the limbs. When I think of my head, I think of I. The hands also are I. The feet are I. The chest is I. The eyes also are I. One I pervades this diversity called the body. The body is made of different limbs and still there is unity. There is one self that informs the whole body. Similarly, the one self informs the entire universe. And to convey that idea, the universe is presented as a Purusha or a person, a cosmic person, having limbs similar to the limbs of a person. In the Mundaka Upanishad, it describes the person, cosmic person, with 7 limbs. Agnir Murdha, the head is the heavens. Chakshushi Chandra Suryau, the sun and moon are the eyes. Dishaha Shrotre, the quarters, the directions are the ears. Vag Vivritascha Vedaha, Vedaha, the Vedas are the cosmic person's speech. Vayuhu Pranaha, the wind is the breath of that cosmic person. Hridayam Vishwa Asya, the whole world is his heart. So beautiful, no? The entire universe is his heart. Padbhyam Prithvi, earth is the feet. Hyesha Sarva Bhutantaratma. And who is he? He is the indwelling self of all. In his commentary on this mantra, that means his third mantra, Sri Shankaracharya quotes from the Chandogya Upanishad, where it is said that the Virat Purusha, the cosmic person, has these 7 limbs. Etasya Atmanaha Vaishwanarasya Murdha Eva Sutejaha. Of the Vaishwanara, the cosmic person, the heaven is the head. Chakshur Vishwarupaha, the sun is the eye. Pranaha Prithak Vartmatma, the wind is the breath of this cosmic person. Sandeho Bahulaha, space is the body. Vastireva Raihi, water, the oceans are the bladder. Prithivyeva Padau, earth is the feet. And Asyam Ahavaniyaha, fire is the mouth. It's good, to meditate, to do this kind of an upasana. Seeing the whole universe as one cosmic person and the different parts of the universe as different limbs within the cosmic person. These are the 7 limbs, Swamiji says. Heaven is the head, sun the eyes, wind the breath, space the intermediate body, the ocean or water the bladder, the earth the feet, and fire is the mouth. So the waker has 7 limbs. Which waker? Both the individual waker and the cosmic waker have 7 limbs, thereby suggesting that they are not different. The 7 limbs are the 7 limbs of the universal person, the cosmic person. Therefore, by this expression, Saptangaha, the Upanishad as though tells us that Atma, Satchit, Ananda, okay, I am the universal person. Because I am that Atma, the Atma is the universal person. Therefore, if I identify with Atma, then if I identify with Atma as it is, we are Atma only. If I identify with Atma as it is, then I can say I am the universal person. Okay, we have another few minutes. Okay, so we'll do the next one also. Okay, here also I'm going to read only page 103. The next adjective describing the waker is ekone vimshati mukhaha. Mukhaha. Mukhaha means the gateway, the counters for transaction with the world. So, ekone vimshati mukhaha, the one who has 19 mouths. Swamiji looks at it as mouths is that with which you consume. Okay? And I can also look at it as a gateway through which I transact with the world. We have 19 mouths with which we consume 19-fold objects. The 19 mouths are 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, the 5 pranas, that is 15, and the 4-fold mind, right? So the 5 organs of perception we know are the organs of hearing, touching, seeing, tasting and smelling, and with which we consume the corresponding 5-fold objects, which are Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Then the 5 organs of action are the organ of speech, the hands, the legs, the organ of excretion and the organ of generation. It is said that with these 5 organs of action, we consume or experience their corresponding objects. With speech we produce sound, so speech enjoys or consumes sound. The legs enjoy movement, the hand performs action and so on. The 5 pranas. The 5 physiological functions are prana, apana, vyana, udana and samana. All from Tattva Bodha. Prana is breathing out and apana is breathing in, or alternatively, sometimes prana is looked upon as the respiratory system and apana as the excretory system. Vyana is the circulatory system, samana is the digestive system, udana is the upward movement of vomiting, and ultimately udana is the upward movement when this jiva departs from this body. So these 5 physiological systems or 5 pranas are sometimes referred to collectively simply as prana. Swamiji says, we do not experience anything directly with these physiological systems, but the pranas are the vital energy responsible for the functioning of the organs of action and the organs of perception. As age advances, we observe that prana or vitality diminishes and the organs of perception become weak. We know that. We become hard of hearing and we can't see well, etc. So I'm skipping a little bit. Thus, prana, vitality, is responsible for the functioning of the mind and the organs of action and perception. In that way, we can say that the 5 pranas, through them, we experience the objects of the world through the organs of perception and action. So, we have looked at 15 mouths. The remaining 4 are the 4-fold mind. Manas, Buddhi, Chittam, Ahankara. Right? All from Tattva Bodha. These are the 4 different kinds of vrittis or thought forms, and with them also we consume or we transact with the world. Manas is the emotional, impulsive, reacting faculty with which we have various experiences. Buddhi is the knowing, determining, deciding faculty with which we experience different thoughts. Chittam is the recollecting faculty with which we experience different memories. Ahankara is the asserting faculty, the ego, with which we experience ego gratification. Ego gratification is very important. There has to be some, relative ego gratification for us. Then relatively we are pleased with ourselves. Then we can own up this knowledge and recognize the absolute nature of satisfaction of the self. Anyway, that putting it aside. So we consume these corresponding objects with this fourfold mind. At the same time, the mind and prana also required for the functioning of the organs of perception and action. Thus, the Upanishad says that through these 19 mouths, the Veka consumes the gross objects of the world as well as the subtle objects such as thoughts and emotions. The rest we will look at tomorrow, next time. Okay? Om Tat Sat. If you have any questions, you can send them to me on WhatsApp and I will reply. Okay? Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Kshoparahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhagavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. After I come back, we will learn about an app called Zoom, which allows interactive, so that will be much nicer. Later on, I'll have to buy a new computer for that. Later on, we'll see that. Om Tat Sat. Om.